Hey, Andy,
Yes, Dale.
what was the budget for Hobbs and Shaw?
Oof, good question. 40 million.
Oy vey, a little under there. We're going to go with marketing, 300 million. Follow up. What was the budget for Santa with muscles?
$10.
85,000, according to Eric Bischoff. So we'll take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
However, I managed to understand that that has to be a decent spread between them.
Mm.
Today, what are we talking about, Andy?
So today we're going to go a little bit different. So we're going to go, obviously, Roman Reigns is coming close to Hulk Hogan's reign. Still don't think he's going to get there. But it got me thinking, Hogan had some epic battles during his reign as champion, Warrior, Andre, Earthquake, to name a few. And Roman Reigns has had Brock Lesnar, but who had the top four? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the top four um, people that they come up against, or we thought was the best feuds that they had during the title reigns, and see what we
We're going
think
to
in terms of compatibility.
Let's compare the opponents, okay? So first off
Mm-hmm.
the bat, the first one you have to get out of the way, Andre the Giant for Hulk Hogan,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then I would actually, I mean, Andre's a legend in himself. He's on Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. And if somebody doesn't put him on Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, then they just don't understand the business, I would assume. You
Yeah.
and I can technically say that we don't understand the business fully, but we have a grasp on what makes a business work. All right, not just with our home lives and personal lives, but also just from being fans and understanding the ebbs and flows of this. Andre's a legend, and anybody want a peanut?
Well, they always say, don't they, for anybody to, it's the same in real life fighting, in my opinion. So like the likes of your boxing and MMA and stuff like that is you will never get that epic program unless you've got the best dance partner. Who'd that be? The likes of Mike Tyson would never have got there without the likes of Lennox Lewis. Muhammad Ali would never have got there without the likes of Foreman or Frazier. Um, you know, it's even like with the American football. You don't have the epic matches unless you've got the other team participating, and that's where I think Andre was. He knew where he was, he knew what he was doing, and he played his part to a T because he was there to get Hogan over and to make Hogan the star and to be the dance partner in that one, and he'd
Yep,
done it to a T.
I'd agree. Now, the one thing that we realize is we don't like really the storylines that another company is doing right now because it's all based off of friendship. But when you look at the beginning of that friendship there, that turned into Heenan being aligned
Mm,
with Andre, that's when Hogan said, "Hey, how come we used to be friends?" All that. So it's almost like a certain company does the same thing over and over again with that
yeah,
same angle.
yeah.
But it worked because Andre was different and Hogan was different from everybody else.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm going point Hogan. Well, you know what? I'll go on to the next one. Another rival for Hogan, Macho Man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Macho Man was a good one, wasn't it? Because again, I think there's no secret formula here in wrestling, right? And I think this is the thing that is, Roman with the bloodline story. The best matches he's had, in my opinion, which we'll go into is a bit more, is being stuff that's relevant to that bloodline story. And it's the same with Hogan. It's like with Hogan, some of the best feuds he had were the people that he was kind of close to and they had history there, and then it turned. And Macho Man was the same. Obviously, we had the mega powers, they were very close. Macho Man's jealousy pulled them away from each other. And then obviously in the end, Hogan had no choice but to fight him. And again, it's a really good story and it's relevant because people
Mm-hmm.
have friends in life and it's kind of next minute, they turn against you because of, in the case of Andre, it was Bobby the Brain Heenan that his influence turned him against Hogan. In this one, it was because of Elizabeth and the jealousy over Elizabeth. Again, still a good story because people have been there where they're not friends anymore because of the fact that there was a girl involved. So these stories, they hit home to people and they're very relevant.
It's a linear path.
Mm.
Both
Mm.
of those lines was just straight lines, except I would always love if Hogan brought in Linda. That would have been great.
Mm.
And then eventually Brooke. And then
Yeah.
Hogan would say, "It's me, Austin."
That's it, isn't it?
But
Okay.
I would go, and then there's one further. All right. So Macho Man is just he's another one. Some people omit him from the Mount Rushmore, which is fine for me. No, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. All right. Now, this third one's a toss up. Undertaker or Ultimate Warrior?
I'm going to say Ultimate Warrior. And the reason I'm going to say that is I feel like Undertaker's was very just hash thrown together.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he was new to the business, but it did show a side of Hogan where he could carry somebody as well, because Undertaker wasn't the polished guy that we got to know and love in the end. He was still quite green
Ah,
at this point.
hold on though. Yes, he was a little bit green, but he was taking the direction to the character that he was. He, when you saw him as Mean Mark in WCW, this was a guy that was able to be this menacing kind of huge heel that was tough to stop.
Yeah,
Okay. But then you also had a guy that was literally a dead body that was moving around. It was the Undertaker that we envisioned
yeah,
back in the
yeah. But
early
Hogan
90s.
still did move for him and do the bits and bobs for him, you know, and
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
and he got him through.
we're not talking about drop toe holds
No,
and all that.
but for me, the Warrior match was probably the first time Hogan in his career, and maybe one of the last times, he actually put somebody over and he done it the right way. And in that match, I think Hogan actually showed what he could do in that match.
He carried him.
Yeah.
Without even saying Reigns's three top heels, we'll put out there that Ultimate Warrior is probably the worst wrestler out of everybody there.
Yeah.
I
Well,
I would say.
Warrior for me was number 3 for Hogan. I think we're going to do threes because we're going to run out of time and we like to keep our videos nice and tight. So let's
Let's
move on
do.
to Roman Reigns.
All right.
Okay,
So
number
Roman
one for me.
Reigns
Number one for me has got to be Brock Lesnar. It's
has
got to
to
be
be.
Brock. I
Has to
think
be.
not only was it makes Roman credible, which it did, it had the Paul Heyman aspect of the story, which was really good at the time. But also, I think the matches that they had were the best matches.
Let's put this out there with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar can be placed anywhere on a card and people will rush back to their seats.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Brock Lesnar is the modern day Iron Man, not for any
yeah,
streak or anything, but you knew the mask that he had a big feel to it. The
yeah.
only takeaway in this one is that when we think of the biggest matches that they had, it was a result of someone not even involved in the initial contest coming victorious, like
Mm,
Seth Rollins,
yeah.
who I will lead into as heel number 2 for Roman Reigns. Or I should say, top opponent number 2 for Roman Reigns.
Not for me. Not for me.
Why would that be?
Because I think when Seth and Roman were having their little bits and bobs, Roman's character wasn't established enough for me for it to work as well as what it should have done.
But a heel turn from Seth then created Roman Reigns as somebody that you want to get behind, kind of.
Yeah, but if you're talking about the bloodline and the whole bit that for me is his epic reign, then for me Seth is just a blip in that. He's not really the main event.
Over time, though, Seth's always popped up in Roman's
But
career and it's
but
always
we're
been
only
relevant.
yeah, but we're only talking about his reign now, his championship reign, the one that he's getting close to Hogan with.
Didn't he have a little spot there at a
Yeah,
when
yeah, he did where he
Seth
come out as the
as the
Shield.
Shield, right? Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, look,
But would you say that was better than Sami Zayn,
I'll get to him.
or would you say it was better than Jey Uso?
Mm, no, and I'll tell you why.
And
Okay,
that's the problem with the top three. That's what I'm saying. It's I'm not saying anything against Seth. I'm not saying Seth's not great because he is, but is it close to where it should be with that with
I
them
guess it's
in this title reign?
well. Look, I will put it out there. I think it was better than, as far as this title reign, I would say that it's better than most of the opponents, like Kevin Owens.
Mm.
I think Kevin Owens is somebody that just always is somewhere on the card. But
Yeah.
do I have to sit down and watch his match? Hot take. I don't think so. He does nothing for me, Kevin Owens. Unfortunately, I think I'm just bored with him now. But I want to go into one other guy, and you said it beforehand. I mean, who would you think would be number two for him before I do that?
Sammy.
Sammy. Okay.
Mm,
He was number three, but there's no particular order. He
no.
probably is the best one. And let me tell you something about Sammy, okay? Sammy infiltrated a family and had the support of the family. And then when he stood up for Kevin Owens, again, blip on the radar that's always there, Sammy did the unthinkable and then stood up against that family.
Hmm.
And it just pointed out, as decent a shape as you want to put Sami Zayn in, he's not somebody that you're going to go out there and be like, oh, that's a wrestler. But he made himself impactful.
Yeah.
Not to do any spoilers. Yesterday, I watched him and I said, this guy is a wrestler and this guy has momentum everywhere he goes. And he's been impressive.
Yeah, and I think with Sammy is the emotion of the story there, where he was trying to please Roman. Roman kept on bullying him and doing bits and bobs. Then he was making him turn against his friends and manipulating him. And then Sammy turns on him. Great story again, really
It's
good story. And
must watch TV. It's
yeah,
must
yeah.
watch TV. It was amazing. All right,
Okay,
so quickly, head to head, we're gonna go the first of each one. Oh, who are you
okay. Whoa,
three
whoa,
for
whoa. We
round?
still got one more. Still got one more
Go
for
ahead.
myself.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Jey Uso. He was number one for me all day. Again, we go back to say with Hogan with the stories. You know, Roman's the big cousin. He bullied Jey. Jey was the first one in the bloodline. For me, he should have been the one that ended the bloodline and beat Roman because of the fact that he was the one that started it with Roman. And Roman beat him up, put him in line. Then Jey kind of sees what's going on. He turns, Jimmy turns as well. And then they get the winner money in the bank, leads up to the match. The match was great. Yeah, brilliant
Eh,
stuff.
It's nice stuff, especially when a lot of it was almost required reading in
Mm,
wrestling. And that's not something that's happened for 25 years, to be honest with
no,
you.
no.
And it's good to see.
Hmm.
So head to head, I'm gonna go head to head real quick. Who'd win top person out of this? Andre versus Brock Lesnar.
Brock,
All right. Macho Man versus who was your number two for?
Sammy, be a great match there.
Oh, that'd be fun. Macho.
Yeah, but
I have to go
Macho.
Macho.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And then number three, Ultimate
Jey
Warrior or Jey
versus Jey
Uso.
Uso. Jey Uso.
Yeah, but I would love to see that just for Jay flying all over the place for somebody that's not selling shit.
Yeah, and do you know what? That's probably something you get out of that match. But all in all, let me ask you this question then: who has the better um, kind of top three? Do you feel just before we wrap this up?
Uh Hogan,
Yeah.
because I don't I think no offense to them, 20 years down the road, they're gonna say, what were the Usos names? They're gonna know who
Mm,
Reigns was. They're gonna be
yeah.
like, oh, which one's Jimmy, which one's Jay? Or they're gonna be like,
I,
oh yeah,
I
he had the
don't,
brothers.
yeah, I
20
disagree
years
with
down
that
the
to an
road.
extent. I think it'll happen, but the one thing I will say is, and the one thing I don't like is with Hogan's feuds, they had a beginning, a middle, and an end. With Romans, they don't seem to end well. There's always this, but like with Jey Uso and Sammy, both there was the screw finishes, and then there was the bits, and they're still there, and there's no kind of definitive end to that story yet, and that's where I think Hogan's was great because Hogan's always had a beginning, a middle, an end, then on to the next chapter, which was somebody new. And that's one thing that I did like about Hogan's reign.
But Paul Levesque says himself, our story never ends.
Yeah, but the person surely shouldn't end, but the chapter should end. And
Hmm.
that's where, for me, you know.
Maybe you and I got to write an epilogue. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think that
Right.
wraps us up.
That's it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know your comments of who you think was the best for these two. And we will see you again next time. But
Brother.
from me and the big man, peace.